Hi, my name is Jordan Gergely. I did my final presentation on the comparison between the story The Marquise of O and rape that happens in modern day warfare. So I started off by kind of giving an overview of the Marquise of O and what happens. The Marquise is part of her family. She lives with her family, who her dad is the commandant of a fortress, and she was widowed and has a couple children, so she lives with her family now. Um, during during an attack on the fortress, the Marquise is taken by a group of Russian soldiers, and their intent is to rape her. And a higher ranking soldier comes and rescues her, and she's so grateful that he's doing this for her, but it turns out she passes out and he actually rapes her himself. And as the story goes on, it becomes evident that she's pregnant, and she can't make any sense of this because she has no idea what had happened to her. And when she tries to explain this to her parents, they just think that she's lying and that she's a disgrace to the family. And she moves away for a while. But when she becomes determined to find out who the father is, the Count comes forward and offers to marry her because he believes he's an honorable man and he thinks that this will fix the problem. So the concerns at the time obviously were that the Marquise is not married and it's not acceptable for a woman to have sexual relations with any man that she's not married to. And she can't hide this obviously because she's pregnant. And so the Count, he wants to fix this by offering her a marriage proposal, and she's first disgusted by this, as I think any victim of rape would be, and but eventually she realizes that because of society and because of the implications that this has on her, she kind of doesn't have a choice, and her parents force her into it in the end anyways. So today, in rape and war is something that people probably don't want to confront. They don't want to realize that it's a real problem and something that still happens, especially because war doesn't necessarily happen on our own soil, so it's not something that we see and we kind of just brush it under the rug. But it is something that really happens. It's a real problem. And this is a picture from Amnesty International, and it says, "Rape is cheaper than bullets. Too bad most would rather die than be raped." So it's kind of addressing the fact that rape is a real weapon of warfare because of the implications that it puts on the people who are victims of it. So the implications obviously are society's perception, a family's perception, and the victim's grief. So societies outside of the United States, they still have a communal way of life where the woman is seen as sacred and she can't be soiled before she's married. And if this does happen, she's seen as undeserving of love, and she is just a disgrace to the family. Not that she's obviously done anything wrong, but that's how they look at it. So I used some examples in my paper. There's some women in there that were completely shunned from their families because of what happened to them, and obviously that doesn't help them heal, that doesn't help them get over what happened to them, and they're kind of just stuck in this silence because they have no one to talk to about it, and their family doesn't even want them to be a part of it. So in comparison to the Marquise of O, some of the issues are the same because these societies see it the same way that the society of the Marquise did too. The family's perception is the same. They think it's unacceptable. They think it's shameful. And society sees it the same way, which is why in the Marquise they tried to fix it the way that they could. But I think that the biggest difference is in the US, we are taught to see someone who's been raped as a victim and to help them heal, and they wouldn't necessarily be seen as disgusting or incapable of love, even if that may be how they feel themselves. So societies around the world, though, unfortunately still have the same kind of perception that the Marquise of O has. So some final thoughts. Women who experience this aren't given the appropriate support to accept what has happened and recover. So what I mean is that obviously women who are shunned from their families don't get the chance to really get over this, and that's not the way it should be. It really, obviously they're a victim. They're not someone, they didn't bring it upon themselves as a weapon of war. This is just something completely unacceptable and something that shouldn't happen. but it's never the victim's fault. So, also, the Marquise's outcome really isn't something that would happen today. Obviously, these soldiers who do this are they're they're savages. The way that they treat these people that they come encounter with, and it's it's not something that would happen. The victim being married to the aggressor, and that's probably not something the victim would want, which was the same as the Marquise, but that was what happened at the time to make it acceptable in society. And I also kind of just I included a video about Angelina Jolie. She took a stance on this topic and is speaking out about how it's a real problem, and I think that it shows how it really is. It's prevalent today. It's not something that just used to happen, and something that has been solved. So here you go.
Actress Angelina Jolie is calling on world leaders to take action against those who use sexual violence as a weapon of war. NBC's Keir Simmons is in London, where a global summit is drawing attention to the issue. Keir, good morning.
Hey, Natalie, good morning. Natalie, Angelina Jolie is in the building behind me leading this incredible campaign declaring war on sexual violence against women in some of the world's most dangerous places. Angelina Jolie said the kidnapped schoolgirls of Nigeria and women around the world deserve better. Do you think this is really making a difference?
Sorry, guys. I believe it is. I hope it is.
Celebrities, including Stella McCartney and Kathleen Turner, have backed her, tweeting the hashtag Time to Act.
It is a myth that rape is an inevitable part of conflict. There is nothing inevitable about it. It is a weapon of war aimed at civilians.
One such victim of repeated attacks in war-torn Bosnia, then pregnant, spoke to NBC News in 1992. Safa said she wanted nothing to do with her own baby after the birth. And this is her daughter now.
My name's Lena Rachel Damon.
She was smuggled out of Bosnia. Is that Lady?
Oh my God.
By a journalist who became her dad after her biological mother even threatened her life.
If I saw her, I would strangle her.
Born out of violence, Layla has become a beacon of hope. She even made a documentary about trying to find her mother.
It makes me feel I would like to meet her, because I would like to understand what she went through at the time.
And now the campaign to end sexual violence in war is building with Angelina Jolie's support. Angelina's campaign really is amazing. What is sickening is that any man would use sexual violence even in a war zone. Natalie, these men aren't soldiers, they are cowards.
All right, Keir Simmons in London. Thank you, Keir.
So as you can see with that, it not only gave you the perspective of Angelina Jolie confronting the issue, but it also gave an example of someone who came from sexual violence in wartime and how that affected them and how the mother felt about it. It kind of gives another example of how that society viewed that as well. So I hope that this was enlightening and kind of gave a new insight to this comparison.
Intersonic Uvadi